Okay, this will have to do.
Hey, hey, hey. Come on, there we go.
Are we online?
It's online.
Okay.
Jimmy Doan Show.
Right on time, 4 o'clock.
That's right. We are here. We do this twice a week these days, 4 o'clock Wednesdays and Sundays. Please join us. We do this live on George Elmore's Facebook channel. Also, I'll post a time-stamped copy, all the subjects time-stamped up on YouTube right after this. Hey, Carrie. And we will also be available on iTunes and Luminary and Lisbon, some other places. So find us wherever you like. And hey, Dr. Willis. So thank you for joining us. And today is the 24th of April, 2019. What is happening, Dr. Doan?
Okay, well, not much. Nothing. No news.
What? What are you talking about?
No. We actually have some news. There's some stuff here. In no, as we say, in no particular order. There has not been a lot of.
To my great chagrin.
Well, we have do a couple of Trump things we'll get to, but it's to say in no particular order. To start off, police can
Sri
now.
Lanka explodes.
Who?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Right. Yeah. Police can now buy an armored all-wheel drive Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat. I love it because the Hellcat was one of the airplanes that was in the Pacific in World War II.
Yeah.
Grumman Hellcat was a big deal, whatever. But is that it?
Well, no. This is various police cars. Here
Okay. Well, this one, Armor Max. Armor Max is the country's. Told Motor Authority, the company that can outfit a bulletproof Charger SRT Hellcat with all-wheel drive as part of an in-house conversion process. Customers can simply check the box and that will ensure the 707 horsepower finds its way to all four wheels.
Powered.
700 horsepower, yeah. That, of course, what's going to happen is in a couple of years after they have, 200,000 miles on them, they're going to be dumped to the public.
And you'll be able to pick one up?
Pick one up, that's right. That'll be great. So anyway, they also install police spec lighting, ballistic armored glass, a push bar, and run flat tires. The bulletproof paneling is available in, and I don't know what this is, B4, B5, B6, and B7 ballistic protection, which I guess is just thicker and heavier and whatever, who knows what. And it also protection for the battery, the radiator, the fuel tank, and the ECU, which is the environment. I don't know what that is. But the 6.2 liter supercharged V8 will certainly be able to handle it. Pricing starts at around $100,000 and can go up to, the base price is $65,000 and it can go up to about $100,000. But this is one of those things, they've got, of course, some of the, look at these. They've got the, armored vehicles from the Iraq War.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them up here.
Okay, the Bearcat.
And you can see their municipal county.
Yeah, municipal, right. So, but they have, Little Hawthorne's got one up here, a little place up here, population of about 2,000. They've got their Hellcat, Bearcat, whatever it is. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, the one that you just described sounds like it's obviously for a high-speed pursuit of people who are firing at them.
Well, yeah.
Which happens like once ever.
Yeah, right. Once ever.
But look, what you look... Police cars, come on, this is one of the perks, right?
I guess.
And a lot of these cars you'll see are confiscated. Some of these, the really nice ones, are in foreign countries. Well, they'll have a Lamborghini or something.
Right.
But a lot of the ones around here are confiscated.
Beauty, there's one. There's a SWAT. Look at that, a tracked vehicle. Can you, what are you talking about? It's a tracked vehicle.
Yeah.
So...
But
everybody's got to have a new toy, Our police.
Well, that's what I was saying. But the good news is, from my perspective, police cars are really on the way out. You gotta
perfect.
Yeah, they have to be, because if you think about it, it won't be long. Everything will be enforced via drone, via camera. That's it. The cameras on the side of the road will catch you going by. The cameras on the side of the road will catch you coming out of the bank, whatever it is, whatever crime it is, they'll trace you back down. Jesse Smollett, They just go through the cameras.
Right.
So you don't need high-speed pursuit. They'll have some drones, maybe, but I mean, the only time you need a high-speed pursuit is when you're chasing somebody who's going to go and commit further acts right then. And usually all the people who are trying to get away are just trying to get away.
Right.
And they're not going to get away anymore. I mean, we have helicopters and stuff.
Right, the helicopters with the flare gun that tracks the heat.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're not getting away. You're just not.
Yeah.
So we don't need to chase them down.
It's always funny though, because I guess one of the best channels in L.A. is one of the chase channels, when they have the the News 4 chopper up there along with the police chopper, and they're running down the highway.
It's just so unsafe, and so self-driving cars. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, anyway, I just thought it was interesting because they wouldn't be coming up with this if somebody didn't want it. And some police people are probably going to say, we need to have one of those, 700 horsepower, and they're going to be trying it out too.
Yeah, but this is, I think, probably more going to be an advertising thing where they drive it over to the high school and say, look how cool we are, and come join the cops.
Yeah. All right, well, whatever. Okay, now interestingly enough, the Russian state media has decided to broadcast Fox on their TV. Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report implicated the Russian government in a widespread campaign. Of course, that was totally bogus. It wasn't, and never happened, and so forth. And I mean, what little bit happened was just a joke. But the Russian government-owned Rossiya 1 news channel recently broadcast excerpts from Fox News primetime, Sean Hannity's on-air monologue, which hammered media hysteria over the report and allegations of campaign collusion with the Russian government. So, I mean, it's interesting that Hannity now is, I guess, being popular because he's debunking the report that says that the Russia chimed in or whatever. So the Russians decided, well, we'll broadcast that. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Is he going to hold it? Well, now we have vodka for you.
That's right.
That's going to be the new sponsor. Brought by Silicon. That's right. Moscow Vodka is bringing you the Sean Hannity show.
Well, I'll say this: RTV, Russian television, has some hard-hitting stories.
They do.
It's crazy.
And they have people on there that are reliable people.
Yeah.
I mean, they have people on there all the time that really tell it like it is. Now, it's my understanding they're under some constraints from the mother country.
Sure.
To you can't totally trash Putin.
Right.
But but almost everything else is fair game, and so it's one of the better news.
At least it just seems like they're trying. Over here, it seems like every news media organization that's large has gone to just tabloidism.
Yeah. Right. If it bleeds, it leads. They've got to do that. I mean, it just doesn't. It just doesn't do to broadcast good news. The kids sang in a choir today, and everybody was happy. No, that's not news.
Well, they can't even get good bad news right now. I mean, I saw a story on CNN. For what it's worth, that it was talking about Sarah Huckabee Sanders and how she lied.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Okay, so she comes out and she says in one of her press conferences that countless FBI agents have talked to her and were appreciative that President Trump fired Comey.
Right.
And she reiterates it. She's like, countless, I talked to a bunch of them, and they're all like, wait, what? You talk to FBI agents? Like, what do? Call you and say, hi, I'm with the FBI, and I'd just like to voice my approval, or they bump into you in the hall. It didn't make any sense. And they called her on it. And they busted her on it. And, and when she had to do her interview with Mueller, she admitted it was baseless. Okay, but she's the spokesperson. We know this. I mean, if you don't know that the spokesperson for the president is going to lie, and especially when they use hyperbole and when they say stuff like countless, when they use words that aren't specific, you know that they're just throwing stuff around.
It's interesting because I'm still binging again on West Wing.
Right, it's the same exact kind of thing.
But she is very adamant about not lying.
Okay, well, yeah, and so they try to keep their cards very close. I agree. Right. That's the job is to do your best to not lie.
Right.
But at the same time, something like this. Look, what does this question have to do with anything? I mean,
right.
They're asking her personally as the secretary, who she talked to. I mean, what does that matter?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all. And so So she says whatever she says. But then what's interesting is that, and then April Ryan says, well, heads should roll up there. And talking about, of course, people getting fired.
Right.
Now, Huckabee Sanders comes out and says, she wants to decapitate me.
Yeah.
Like they're pretending they don't know, that they're using hyperbole.
Right.
It's like, come on.
Yeah. No, I know.
Quit
Well, the
pretending.
same thing that
There's got to
happened.
be a good French word for pretending you don't know what the words mean. That some kind of
Je ne
dramatic.
sais pas.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're saying.
Incroyable.
It's just silliness. But
Okay.
so anyway.
So anyway, the
What do we
Russians picking up Fox News. Now, Warren, of course, now in the Give It All Away, has unveiled her $640 billion debt forgiveness plan.
Yes.
So all these, what they want to do. There's some people that have been saying, well, you should be able to discharge your debt by bankruptcy, but you can't.
Right.
And now, so anyway, she says she's going to elimination of existing student loan debt, but I think it's $1.5 trillion. I think
Yes.
is the total. So she's got a $640 billion debt.
Well, she's talking about a one-time payment with no interest and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So so you pay off all the debtors. It's half.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Well, sure you did because they're charging interest if you pay them back over the next 30 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought it was the base amount that was $1.5 trillion. No.
I could be wrong. I'm just guessing. This is my interpretation of what she said.
Yeah, the expected present value. Democrat, anyway, she's existing student loan debt go away for millions of people, a part of a sweeping thing, and she announced it. The Massachusetts senator says the proposal, which she unveiled Monday, day before yesterday, would eliminate almost all student loan debt for 42 million Americans, canceling $50,000 in debt for each person with a household income of under $100,000. So,
right.
You're sitting here, God, what, this now we're picking and choosing again, the whole deal. And of course, a lot of these kids, when they're out, they've got this debt. It could be $100,000 or $150,000. That's number one. And of course, their income is low because they can't get a job, and so they're only going to get $50,000. They're still going to be in debt.
Yeah, this is wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
I mean, so many levels. I'm glad you brought this up. First of all, we talked about last week, Warren coming out and with her big plan. You said her anchor plan was going to be impeach Trump. And I said, hold on. She'll come out with something else.
You did say that.
3 days
you are
later,
exactly correct
here she comes. And what is it? Free money, as we have said before. She's checking another box of free money. Now, interestingly, who does this support? It's sort of the upper middle class. I mean, these are kids who have gone to college and have debt. I mean, this is like not super poor people, right?
No.
And it's not.
If they were able to get a loan,
right?
For one thing,
yeah, you had to be somewhere in there. Now, this topic was covered very well by Peter Schiff.
Okay.
He went into it very well. And this is the Peter Schiff, the financial guru.
Right.
For our listeners. I know you know who he is.
I do. Totally love Peter. I love Peter Schiff. He's great.
Awesome, and he covers this very well in the last 5 minutes of his last podcast. And he goes into all of the damages that this would cause. Not only, you're causing so much damage on so many levels. First of all, you're telling kids, go out and take debt out. If you get in too deep, we'll bail you out.
Right. Well, that's what they told. Of course, that's where the housing.
Exactly.
That's what
it's
they did.
Literally the same thing.
When Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae said we'll guarantee the loans, well, what do you think happened?
Exactly. And of course, what did that do? Encouraged all of the people to raise their prices. All the educators raise all their prices. Of course, all of the banks want to loan money to these guaranteed things. But of course, they're not dischargeable in bankruptcy.
Right.
So the banks are going to get paid. So that doubly incentivizes them to go out there.
Right.
The fact that they're going to push anybody into college begins to further devalue the college degrees that are out there. So they pay more for them and they're worth less. And you're sucking people in who maybe couldn't get the loan from the bank because they couldn't prove they were going to get the good job after they got out.
Right.
But if you allowed that loan to be made privately and then dischargeable in bankruptcy, then the banks would have to make that evaluation in a real market scenario.
Well, this is why most of the time, if you were in medical school, for instance, and you had any kind of, you could go get a loan.
Exactly.
You could get now.
Same thing with law school.
Yeah.
There's a couple of professions. I
imagine if you're in electronics, some kind.
Yeah.
If you're one of the STEM
PhD
things.
in engineering or something,
Yeah.
I guarantee they're giving you the money.
Yeah.
But But the whole thing is totally distorted right now, and this is just another incredible. This is like monkey wrench. This is a bag of monkey wrenches.
Well, it's they created the problem to begin with.
Right.
The government did, and now they're going to fix it
by doubling down.
By doubling down. That's right.
And that's exactly correct. All these people have gone to college who shouldn't have. They have debt that they shouldn't have. The price rose to where it shouldn't be, and the value of the degrees has dropped. All of this stuff, and it's just this huge distortion. You've taken labor out of the labor market when these people should have gone to work. You've distorted the credit market by having loans discharged unnaturally in ways that now the credit agencies are going to have to account for in some way, and yet I'm sure there'll be laws which prevent them from using those debts against
remember,
you.
all laws are backed up with a gun.
I'm just saying that it is such a bag of crap, and then on top of it all, you're taking money from the way she wants to fund it is by taking money from the wealthy,
right?
Which she calls this is payback. Okay.
Yeah.
Which she says that the wealthy people have taken money out of the system, which they have not.
No.
They added value into the system, and they took some of the extra value.
They got paid for what they did.
Well, and they just took a little bit of the extra value that they added. I mean, they added more value in and took a little bit of that back out for themselves, and you want to take some of that on top of it. And if you didn't do that, that money could go into more actual job creation.
Right.
Because that's capital, and that's what capital is used for.
That's what capital is,
And
right.
so she wants to take good capital that we use for good job creation, fund untenable students in trumped up, crappy, overpriced universities. This is her big solution.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And I'll bet you that she's not willing to put the money that she would have been taxed under that system into the charity system for education if she does not become elected president. You know what I'm saying?
No.
She's not going to donate the extra money that would if this program were to go through, we all get charged extra money, extra tax money. But if she doesn't get elected and this program doesn't ever come,
well, it's just the rich people that get paid, and she said basically.
Oh yeah, maybe she's not.
No, here it is.
That's right.
She said it would be more than because the ultra millionaire tax would be a 2% tax on the 75,000 families worth $50 million or more.
Right.
Okay, so 2% is what, $1 million.
Right.
So you have on your wealth. Now, one of the things that is interesting about this is when you calculate a person's wealth, you got to be careful because sometimes if you've got a house and a car and you've got some paintings,
Oh, they'll be careful.
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting because for years, of course, that's one of the reasons that you have that so many of the castles in England, for instance, are open to the public is because they had a wealth tax.
Also, right?
Yeah, because they had a wealth tax, and they had to basically they had to open their house up in order to make the money to support the thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, she says Warren's plan would also create a fund with a minimum of $50 billion intended to keep per student spending at historically black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions comparable to other area colleges. So, she's on for the black people and on for the,
It's everybody.
It's
she's going to check every box before it's all over.
Well, it's just the rich people, of course, again.
Yeah.
So, it's just, you look at this and you think.
But just the plan itself, like I said, it's flawed on so many levels.
Yeah, it is. But I guess it sounds good to some people unless you happen to be worth $50 million. Okay, the Supreme Court, now here we have another legal thing here, takes up gay transgender job discrimination cases. Now these are not going to be heard until next year or until the first Monday in October, whatever it is when the Supreme Court reconvenes. It agreed to decide whether U.S. law banning workplace discrimination on the basis of sex protects gay and transgender workers, as the conservative minority court waded into a fierce dispute involving a divisive social issue. At issue is a high-profile legal fight is whether gay and transgender people are covered by Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which bars employers from discriminating against employees based on their sex, as well as race, color, national origin, and religion. So it's going to take up two cases concerning gay people who said they were fired due to their sexual orientation. and one was a New York skydiving instructor and so forth. The court will also take up a funeral home's bid to reverse a filing that it violated federal law by firing a transgender funeral director. And after Stevens revealed plans to transition after this guy who was there in the funeral, he was going to transition, so they fired him.
Right. Okay, so what's the issue here?
Well, just Title VII, against your no discrimination based on gender.
Right.
Does that apply to transgender?
I think it pretty clearly does.
Well, it's going to be interesting.
How could it not? I mean, what?
Well, it says the legal fight centers on the definition of sex in Title VII.
They've drawn some distinction between sex and gender.
Yeah.
In the community. But I think that it's an untenable distinction. It's
Well, that's what they said. It says here that many large companies have argued discriminating against gay and transgender workers is inherently based on their sex and is thus unlawful. So I don't know what that's
right.
But
well, my thoughts are the Supreme Court will rule in their favor. Personally, I don't think any group deserves any protection.
No, I'm with you on that. They've expanded.
I think you should be able to be fired because you looked at the boss the wrong way if he feels like firing you, and or for any other reason they feel like. And if you want to spread it around, they did it for bigoted or xenophobic or whatever other reason, you can do that.
Well, it is interesting because it was several years ago. I remember we're talking about this on another Jimmy Doan, the earlier Jimmy Doan show with Eric, and it was this one person had put up a Dilbert cartoon in their little cubicle. Because Dilbert's about cubicles.
This show brought to you by Scott Adams.
That's right, Scott Adams. That's right. He was on twice today. So anyway, people took offense at the cartoon, and they complained to Human Resources, and they were getting ready to fire the guy. Because people were complaining about the cartoon, and it was Dilbert cartoons are clean, but somebody was offended by it, so they're getting ready to fire the guy. Okay, this is a good one. I like this one. A female MMA fighter attacks a man who allegedly exposed himself to her on the beach. Okay, this was great.
Why is this great?
Vieira was posing for photos in swimwear when she claims a man performed a sex act on himself. Now, here's what's funny about this. I saw her picture. She was almost naked.
Yeah, but remember, that doesn't count.
Is that right?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you're not supposed to look at the victim's clothing anymore. It's been like that for a while.
Is that right?
Yeah. You can't say they're provocatively dressed or anything.
You can't?
No, they've tried. They changed the whole narrative. Here's what they came down to.
I did not know this.
Yes, what happened was it was a case a long time ago, and the girls were dressed like hookers basically, and they got raped, and everybody was like,
what did you expect?
Exactly.
What did you expect? You go out there looking like in a red dress, looking like a slut.
And
what did you think?
And they changed the whole narrative around to say, at that point, that sex wasn't about, or the rape wasn't about sex, that it was about power.
Power, right?
That's bullshit. Okay, I'm sorry. It's about sex. Okay, the sex may be about power,
right?
But it's about sex. Okay, and so, but in the meantime, that entire narrative has been taken out of it completely. So you can't even bring up what the girl was wearing at the trial, that kind of stuff. So
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's totally excluded at this point.
She's a fox. I got to give her that. She was
sure. Well, she was taking modeling pictures,
right? And so anyway, when I looked over there, and he had his shorts down and was standing there on a path where people, including children, pass by all the time. So the children can't see it. And of course, what he said was he was merely urinating. Well, it looks pretty similar,
Yeah, could be.
Just kind of shaking it off there, and obviously anyway they arrested him. And I don't know what the outcome's going to be. My guess is they're going to release him.
Yeah, well, he got beat up.
Yeah, right. By an MMA. Yeah, sure. Right. She whomped on him. Yeah, for sure.
He got some punishment.
Okay, so Trump. Now we do have one piece of news about Trump, and that is he did issue his Earth Day message. Monday was Earth Day.
Right.
Since 1971 or 2, I think is when the first 73 maybe was the first one. And so every Earth Day, now everybody's supposed to bow down to Mother Earth or whatever you do, or worship or something, and do good things.
You go out and litter. No,
you don't do that. Well, anyway, but it was interesting. What they were upset about is, I mean, everybody glommed all over him and accuse him that Donald Trump issued on Monday an Earth Day proclamation that omitted any mention of climate change or the cavalcade of environmental threats posed by deforestation, species loss, and plastic pollution. The president instead chose to praise the benefits of a strong market economy. And I thought it was interesting, the executive of the Sierra Club, of course these people, you know what side they're on, said Trump was, quote, the worst president for the environment our nation has ever had. Well, I don't think so. I mean, that's,
no way.
I'm thinking, you know, back, you could certainly get back in the 20s and 30s and something, and you could probably...
I guarantee you there's sometimes somebody said, well, just dump the whole mountain into the ocean.
That's it, right, yeah, I mean, right, yeah, that's so. So anyway, so the Trump praised the abundant beauty and life-sustaining bounty of the American environment, but did not echo growing warnings from scientists over rising temperatures and the precipitous decline of many species.
Man, well, and without him saying it, I mean, who's going to say that stuff?
Yeah. Boy, that's us. I mean, I'm worried, I tell you that.
Yeah.
Environmental protection and economic prosperity go hand in hand, which is true. You know, one of the things that is interesting that people don't quite understand is when you're just starting out and you've got a steel mill, you don't think about adding all the stuff into your steel mill to protect the environment at first.
Right.
You have to make some money first. You have to make some profit. Then you can do it. That's why in the developing nations you expect to see some pretty bad pollution for a while until they ramp up and because it costs money to clean up the environment, and you got to have that money has to come out of somewhere.
Yeah, and I posted another story this week yesterday actually about a guy in Sarasota who creates cement pots, customized cement pots. You give them your design, you put your handprints in the cement, all this kind of stuff. You make it into like a family pot. Mm-hmm. And then they take the pot out into the ocean and drop it down, and it begins reef formation.
Okay.
And so basically it's a free market solution to reef formation.
Okay.
People worried, I saw somebody post the other day, we don't make reefs anymore. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. Well, yeah.
But they cost money.
Well,
but it's voluntary.
That was voluntary, but also they make reefs out of old ships.
Right.
They sink them.
Yep.
Out there, and that's becomes a diving place and a reef thing.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, environmental protection
Trump's
and economic.
dumping on the environment. Huh?
Yeah. No, that's right. A strong market economy is essential to protect.
What did he do on 420?
Pardon me.
What did he do on 420? No, I'm just kidding.
Right on 420. That's right. Yeah, he did.
He goes out there. Yeah, exactly.
I'm having a little doobie day. 420. Okay. Now, of course, speaking of the environment, New York City Mayor DeBlasio.
Aha!
We are going to ban glass and steel skyscrapers.
That's right. I've got a small slideshow for us.
Oh God. Okay.
What do you see here, Bill?
Yeah, right. We're going to ban these. He wants to, they want to retrofit everything with all.
I know. They're going to, let me guess, they're going to build it out of plastic?
No, can't do plastic.
Can't do that.
No.
Can't do that. Wooden skyscrapers. Look at this. This is Hong Kong. This is Chicago. What do all of these places have in common?
Skyscrapers?
With steel glass
Steel
building.
and glass, right.
Come on, Bill. You can't. He says they're inefficient.
Right. He's going to. Now, what's interesting? It's quote inefficient. So
right.
Who decides what's inefficient?
And obviously, all the engineers from all these cities disagree.
Right. Well, here's the deal. You don't certainly when an architect starts to put one of those things together, the first question the builder's going to ask is, what's it going to cost to run this thing?
Oh, for sure.
Utilities.
Well,
what are you telling me?
Is that what his complaint is? Utility costs? I mean,
what he was he wants
said
to
something
make sure
like the buildings have the highest emissions or something.
Let's see. He said one of the biggest source of emissions or building. I don't.
What does that mean?
I don't know what that means. I don't know.
I mean, the building doesn't emit anything.
Well, I guess
the people in the building breathing air or something. I mean, is it?
Get rid of them.
Yeah. Is it the air conditioning units? I mean, what?
We're making the Green New Deal come alive here in New York City, he said.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 basic very ideas. 1, the biggest source of emissions in New York City is buildings, and I don't know
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. He didn't. It just, he's a total commie person, whatever.
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, obviously, look, he's going to do some good, no matter the harm.
Yeah, right. Well, it is as I say, it's as if the builders or the people that want to have the buildings built don't want efficiency. I mean, what are you talking about? Of course you do.
Right.
That's the main thing you want. That's one of the main things you're going to have is efficiency. You want to make.
Right.
And
apparently all of them agree worldwide.
Yeah.
Except for Bill.
Yeah. He looks at him and says, "Well, this is not efficient."
No. We're not doing that here. I mean, how long till they? I mean, I guess New York is sort of on its way out anyway. I mean.
Well, I think that's one of the places where people are starting to move out.
Yeah.
But they want to take in a bunch of migrants and so forth.
Right.
Brunei, a country over there in the Middle East, defends stoning gay people to death in a letter to the EU.
Mm-hmm.
Brunei has refused to back down over its controversial anti-gay laws. The country in Southeast Asia has been widely condemned since it was announced to anyone who is gay could be stoned to death as punishment. That's pretty severe punishment.
It is, and we talked about them asserting this right in that province in Indonesia a couple weeks ago as they reasserted strict Sharia law.
Right.
It's horrifying. I mean, it's horrifying. They do amputations for theft, that kinds of stuff. But, as you pointed out, it isn't like we have light sentences over here or anything.
Right.
You give somebody 10 years in prison, I would say that's maybe the equivalent of lopping their arm off right then.
Yeah, okay.
And if you let them back out right then and they rejoin society right then.
Well, it's absolutely one of the things that was great, of course, that outlined this in spades was the movie with Morgan Freeman and Tim, what's his name, Robbins.
Yeah.
And what was that movie?
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. And of course, what you found out was these people, having been in jail they couldn't rejoin. I mean, they couldn't get back into society. It's too much has gone by. Can you imagine somebody who was incarcerated 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, being released into society? What the hell's going on here?
Well, it's very difficult to adjust. I've dealt with many people who have been incarcerated for long periods of time, and it's one of the biggest problems is readjustment. This brings up another issue Bernie Sanders talking about this week: prisoners in custody voting.
God.
He was royally panned when that woman questioned him at the town hall meeting.
Would you let the Boston bomber?
Right.
And he said, "Well, yeah."
Now, okay. Here's the reality. The reality is, it wouldn't make any difference if people like the Boston bomber voted.
No,
but the correct answer was he's an exception. The correct answer was we're trying to establish a rule here, and there would be exceptions.
Right.
And you would have exceptions for Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy and those guys. There would be. And you don't need to. Scott Adams was concerned we'd have to amend the Constitution to do that. You don't have to do anything like that. We prevent people from voting right now. We could easily back off of that a little bit, allow people who are going to get out to vote. And, if you're going to get out at some point, then you get to vote or something like that. If you're going to get life in prison anyway, well, what do you care? Or what do we care? What do you care? Whatever. You know what I mean? We could have exceptions.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't make any difference anyway. If those guys voted, look, murderers aren't going to vote to make murder legal.
No.
Okay, because they'd be the first ones murdered.
That was one of the
things,
first
ones.
That was one of the things that I think it was Shapiro came up with. It said, "Well, let's assume for a moment that everybody is in jail, and they're going to get to vote." And I'm sitting there thinking, but that's, you are way off base. First of all, even though we have the highest incarceration rate in the world, it's still, 2.5% or something like that.
Oh, it's under 1%.
Is it under 1%?
Yeah.
Okay, but the point is that even if they all voted the same way, it ain't gonna make any difference.
Right, and what he's worried about, and I understand where he's coming from, is he's worried about them voting for crazy stuff. But the reason he's coming...
They would have to be on the ballot.
There's that. But all yeah, exactly.
Item number 3, crazy stuff.
That's right. Right in your initiative. No, there's that. Okay, but also he's assuming that the people in custody are different from him, and they're not.
Right.
They're regular people in custody. There's very, very, very few people who are in there who are really crazy people.
Yeah.
Most of the people in there are just people who got picked up for something here and there. And we have the death penalty for stuff like drug dealing. We have legal drug dealers, and then we have illegal drug dealers. And the illegal drug dealers, even Scott Adams wants to kill them. Murder, kill them. I mean, I say murder.
Well, he was what he wanted to do. He was more thought that China should kill the fentanyl.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right over there.
What the whole point is that these are people who are providing other humans with a substance that they are using for whatever they're using it for. They purchase it legally, or not legally, but voluntarily, and should be legally. And we should have a 9th Amendment absolute right to ingestion to your body, to putting stuff in. That's what you should. That's implied.
Well, the idea is, do you own your own body?
Well, right, and I think that's implied in the 9th Amendment. I think it's in there. I think it's no question.
Yeah.
And to me, prohibitions on ingestion or sticking yourself with whatever. I mean, if you want to poison yourself, there's plenty of poison everywhere. You can go in the garage and find some bleach or whatever you want. And so that's not the issue. The question is about judgment about use, and so we've made these judgments that these things can't be used in X way, and it doesn't matter. Even if you're a doctor, you can't prescribe cocaine or something.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you think you have. If the authorities haven't cleared it, then it's still serious penalty.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think a doctor can use cocaine if they're going to operate on your nose. They blow it up your nose.
You are making stuff up.
What? Fake news?
That's right.
That's what they do. They have a little squeegee thing, and they get.
Yeah, right. That's right. Okay, I need you to do a couple lines first.
That'll numb that nose down.
That's right. Rub this on your gums here. I'm gonna do a little dental surgery.
So anyway, the Brunei people did, to go back on this. The Brunei,
all right, and I'm in no way defending what they're doing. To me, it's horrifying.
I know the criminalization of adultery. The Brunei people asked for tolerance, respect, and understanding of its position. Yeah, well, no.
No. Yeah, no. I mean, look, the way we have tolerance is we're not invading. That's our tolerance.
Pretty much, yeah.
It is, and we'll still trade with you. But everybody should recognize here that laws suck here too. So.
Yeah. Okay. My last item is, and then we get to your stuff because we're.
I got a couple things.
Okay. Good.
Good.
I had this one of these things. I've always been a thing on education. How bad our education system is. Yeah. I mean, the public school education is just a travesty. It's
You're the burn the libraries guy.
Yeah, I know. I was the guy who wanted to shut down the library. This was in 2008. I wrote a letter to the Gainesville Sun, and I said it's time to pull the plug on the libraries, public libraries.
Right.
Not the school libraries, not the law library, not the medicine library, and not the, none of that stuff, but the public libraries. It was time because they had outlived what they were for. Because you can't do any research in them because by the time you get the book, it's out of date.
They're clearly homeless shelters.
Well, they're homeless shelters, or they have kids. They have, they put the kids in there to drop off for the babysitters and stuff. But anyway, I was pilloried. I mean, the letters. The guy who at that time, Jake Fuller, was he's our cartoonist, but he was at the time he was the editorial page editor or whatever, and he said he never got so many letters. People hated me. I mean, hated me. So it was great fun. So anyway. So the beleaguered American education system has struggled for years to address issues of inequality with little success. A new report...
Elizabeth Warren.
A new report from the Education Research and Advocacy Group, EdBuild, finds that there's a $23 billion gap in funding between white and non-white school districts. And one of the things that they do, the problem they point out, that even though they have progressive payments, so they have the funding comes from 40%, 45% from local sources, 45% provided by the state, and 10% is made for government federal government. But what's interesting is the funding is as they say, is relatively progressive, which means that the poor underadvantaged, disadvantaged schools get more money per student than the other ones, the rich school. But apparently they still can't make it work. I mean, no matter what. And of course we've seen No Child Left Behind and Rise to the Top and all these other federal government things. Nothing's happening here locally. It's, as I say,
they've eliminated competition.
Yeah, that's the thing. What they do is they co-opt the competition because it's, quote, free. And so, how do you compete with free? You have to set up. One of the things that I find interesting is that they're always talking now about they want to get the kids when as young as 2 years old, pre-K. And what I find, if you drive around Gainesville here, there must be 50 or 60 little house places, with a little playground on the back.
Kindercare
or whatever. Yeah, they're all private, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And they are, they might be charter or something, they might get some money, but basically they are pretty much private.
Well, they're recognizing the benefits of early childhood education. There's nothing wrong with that, but the problem, as we've seen, is the administration has absorbed all the costs.
Right.
Now we pay $10,000 per student for public education.
It's more than that here. It's 12,000.
And the quality is crashing, and there's no competition anywhere, and there's no innovation because there's no competition.
Right.
And it's just the whole thing is a huge mess. It needs to be entirely sold off.
Yeah.
And people want education. Everybody who's mad at me saying it should be all sold off has to recognize there's a lot of people who are mad at that because all you people want education, and you're willing to pay for it. So go pay for it.
Well, the thing about it is when you realize that the education budget here, and this is, I don't know, $300 million or something like that for our 25,000 students K through 12. And so I forget exactly how it works out, but the problem is, as I've said, is that a lot of kids don't make it. When they get to be 16 years old and they're in the 10th grade, they drop out. So if you spend all that money, all that time, and they got zero for it, or less than zero.
That's not true. They got up to that grade level.
Well, they didn't. Because as you know, we have a friend of ours who happens to be an admissions type guy over here at what used to be a junior college in Palatka, and he says that 65% of the people that come there need remedial work in math and...
Well, look, again, this is another effect of the degradation of the system because it's been public for over 100 years now, 120, 130 years.
Well, 100 and...
I think it was the 1890s.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I know the first one in Massachusetts was in the 1840s, I think. But yeah, it became, I forget when it did finally become almost universal, but yeah.
Well, it's
been a while.
It's certainly not private, and there's certainly not all the impetus that is there and all the free markets and all the other products that we value. And they've destroyed, they've really distorted the entire education market. So
well, they have, and of course, when I went and actually taught a little course in one of the schools here, in one of the middle schools here. It was a little thing that I was doing for junior achievement, and I had fun doing it. But I could see what the tragedy was. The teacher that I relieved for an hour, you could tell she was practically burned out. I mean, because these kids were at risk.
Well, look,
and they were shoveled off to the side.
The socialized system suppresses wages also. People all talk about how we don't pay teachers enough. Well, let the freaking price rise.
Yeah.
Let the market pay.
Well, the other thing is, one of the things you do have to understand in a merit type situation would be if you did sell off the school system, well, what's going to happen to the teachers? They'll still teach.
The good ones?
The good ones will still teach, no problem.
Of course
they will. They will just apply to the school and say, I'm a good teacher, and they'll be freed up from, the really crap stuff.
All of those problems would be solved if we got back to a market, and without it, they're just going to get worse. So, all right, a couple of things here that I've got. Wake Forest is holding an inclusion conference.
Well, now, Wake Forest, wasn't that the hockey team that...
No, that was Duke.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
But same kind of thing, little private school, whatever. I'm not little, but it's private school, whatever. They're holding an inclusion conference, no whites allowed.
Okay. An inclusion conference, but no whites allowed. How do they get away with it? I mean, do they look in the mirror when they talk? Or
I guess not. I guess not.
Do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? What are you?
I've pointed out many times, we had our hate conference at Miami 20 years ago.
Is that right?
And it solved the problem. Yeah, I've told you. I told you it devolved into a shouting fest within 5 minutes. and no, of course, I guess if they exclude all the white people, maybe they'll all get along. And I don't know. So we'll see. But we'll see what comes of that. So.
Inclusion.
A woman was arrested for putting 7 puppies in the trash.
I saw that.
Yes,
and they had appeared. She was filmed by camera.
Yeah,
and so they got her.
Right.
And
went back to her house. She got 38 other dogs or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, she's a hoarder of animals, whatever. Everybody wants her to die. Okay. Here's my thought. On that same day, nationwide, we euthanized about 4,000 dogs.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, if she had just brought them to the shelter, they'd have killed them for her and put them in their own dumpster.
Right.
But now she's going to go to prison.
Is she?
Probably.
Yeah, that's cruelty to animals, I guess.
Right.
Well, of course, they lived.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, but there was attempted. It was attempted
murder on an animal.
That's right. But like I said, if she'd have just murdered them the accepted way,
right,
no problem.
Yeah.
Come on. Figure out where you can murder your pets. And of course, I'm speaking tongue in cheek. I can't stand those policies. Gainesville issue, local Gainesville issue. The Swamp restaurant.
Yes.
Is being sold. Somebody wants to build apartments there.
Right.
But there's a movement
to save it. Well,
by designating it a historic property.
Right.
Because
it's 30 years old.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's 25. It's been
No. I mean, the core building is coming on 100 or something.
Okay.
But still, the point is that this is like some sort of public outcry about some person's land.
Uh-huh.
And now there's some state official who is sponsoring a bill.
Yeah, I saw that at Tallahassee.
Right.
God almighty, the capital. So there's going to be a state law that preserves it as a historic landmark.
Right. Maybe. Potentially. And of course destroys its value. So I hope that's not like that one guy's only property or something and he was planning on retiring with that money. Or something like that.
Yeah, I just.
But it's just so silly to see the community step in and take this guy's property because we like it or something. And I mean, what? So
I used to eat there.
That's it. Yeah,
30 years ago, I remember.
I like that place. Yeah, I don't want them to sell it.
Yeah.
What?
Go buy it yourself.
Right.
If you want, have a GoFundMe for God's sake.
Anything. Yeah. Well, and that may be actually part of the guy's campaign, but still, it better be done that way in a voluntary way because it's just hideous. Otherwise.
Well, the thing about it, what's interesting is when we've traveled around a little around Europe, and historical buildings are 1,000 years old. Okay.
Right.
This
this
building is younger than I am.
Yeah, seriously.
And I don't. Now I know that some people consider me an elderly historic property.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good scale to use, but the whole concept. It's just silliness. It's okay. We're gonna have zoning by mob rule or something.
No. Well, it's interesting because this was also talked about in one of my favorite books. From 91. P.J. O'Rourke wrote a book in 91, and it had to do with all that kind of stuff. And he said up in his little town in New Hampshire that the people got together on some piece of land and basically voted, you can't do anything with it that you want to. And he said, now we've come to the point where just because a group of citizens get together and say you can't do it,
well, it's just bizarro. It's not bizarro. We know what's going on here, but
what's interesting is what you do find in towns like this. It gets more and more complex because they can't have the twice a week meetings of the city or every other week or something of the city or the county people without passing some laws or something like that. And one of the things you find here is over the years since I've been here, we've amounted to what amounts to spot zoning. And you can go look at the zoning map, and there's like 1 acre parcels that have different zoning from next door and that kind of stuff. And it's all. I remember when I went, as I think I mentioned this before, I was down in Ocala, and I wanted to buy this 40-acre piece of land to put an antenna up. We were going to put together a TV station, and so I called him up and I said, "What's the zoning on this land?" He says, "There's no zoning. You can do whatever you want with it."
Woo!
And that at that point, this was
Wild West.
Yeah, well, I mean, seriously, there was residential and commercial, and that was it.
Yeah. Well,
not anymore.
San Francisco is trying to build they're trying to solve their homeless problem.
And How are they going to do this?
Well, look, if anybody can do it, right? These guys have all the cash and all the brains, right?
You bet.
If any liberal enclave is going to solve the homelessness problem,
It's going to be San Francisco.
that's right.
Okay.
So they're building a mega shelter.
Okay, a mega shelter.
And that ought to do it.
That ought to do it, right? Well, you know, it's funny because there's two things to consider. Right now, you can go and get the poop map of San Francisco.
Right, yes.
And
I think there's a poop map app.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever it is, anytime they found feces on the public sidewalk, they have a little. And when you look at the map, it's covered. It's all all the little arrows. You can't even read the streets or anything because there's so many of these little things all over the place. And of course, here in Gainesville, we had a 10-year plan to get rid of homelessness. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's been now about Okay, first of all, where they did it is falling into horrible decay. They've had real problems out there all the time. Whatever it was they told, hard to believe. And of course, we still have it. And we now on almost every street corner here, you have a guy standing up there with a little sign, homeless, need help, whatever it is. And they're beggars and all over the place. And I know that Mrs. Jimmy hates that because I guess she's afraid. I look at them and I'm not giving any money.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a bunch of people who are scammers, but then a bunch of them, I mean 2/3 of them have mental illness. I mean serious. Like you can't just give them a house. It doesn't.
No.
It's not going to work. They're not even going to stay there, and they're not even going to leave the door closed.
Yeah.
It's like there's some homeless people who can be brought back in. There's some people who've just left the home or who've just gotten cycled out of somewhere. People who just got out of jail after the state broke up their family and took their kids and whatever. But for the most part. Literally, for the most part, 80-90%, that's where they're going to be.
Yeah.
That's just...
Well, and it is interesting because they have, even our local liberal rag here, every once in a while they'll go out and start to interview some of these people. And, they interview these people, well, I've been homeless for, 30 years.
Right.
And this is the way I live.
You see the same people around here. So, anyway.
So they're going to build this mega thing, and I guess and of course it'll be interesting to see how well it's designed. They're going to have enough porta potties in there, or what are they going to do? I don't even know.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. That's it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Okay, and then my last political thing is in Bridgeport, Connecticut. This is kind of a light note. I should play the light note music. In Bridgeport, Connecticut, these two politicians have been in a pissing contest. That is to say, they challenged each other to drug tests.
Okay.
And they both went and took drug tests.
Okay.
Because they accused one another of being under the influence of drugs.
Okay.
And they both passed.
Okay.
But the point is that we're at the point of where it doesn't matter what you just said. We want you to pee in this cup to figure out how good your idea is.
Oh my God.
like what you just said could have been the most brilliant thing ever, but what we really need
is to find out if you were loaded when you said
That's
it.
right, exactly.
That's right.
It's just to me, it's all drug tests have always had just a fatal flaw and an easy way. It's so easy to test somebody for drugs. Are you ready? Do they sound like they're on drugs? If yes, then it doesn't matter, does it? Right?
I guess.
It doesn't. If they sound that way, then that's what it sounds like. And if they don't sound that way, then it doesn't matter if they are. It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
You don't have to know what's in somebody's chemical system to know if their idea is logical. You can just evaluate the idea.
One of the things that I did one of the great videos that you can find on YouTube is the cop is found this guy as arresting for DUI. Thinks it was DUI. So he had him walk a straight line and all.
Oh, the dancing guy?
Yeah, the dancing guy.
The dancing
He
cowboy.
was
Yeah,
dancing. I mean, this guy was dancing. I mean, you're thinking, this is great. He does everything. And then he admitted to being drunk.
That's
You
it.
idiot. They were going to let him go.
And if that was a real video, which I'm questioning, but if it was, then that guy went to jail.
Yeah.
Even though he could dance all that, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's always been it's a horrible testing situation. All right, real quick, entertainment update. Avengers comes out tomorrow or today. Oh my God! Tonight at midnight.
The theater?
Yeah, the new Avengers.
At midnight.
Yeah, I bet.
12:01.
Probably so.
Yeah, I'd be interested to go over there and see what the line looks like.
Oh man, it should be ridiculous.
Yeah.
It should be Star Wars level.
I've never seen any of them. I don't even.
Oh, they're great.
Well,
They're great. They're
they are.
fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. They do a fantastic job. But the casting in the Avengers universe is perfect.
Really?
It is amazing how well they cast. I mean, I'm a comic book guy. I have the first 200 Avengers comic books.
Really?
Yeah, all of them. Okay, and I've read them all a million times, and I know the whole universe very well. The casting was spot on. The writing has been phenomenal. They've been great cinematic features, and this one purports to be the best one yet. Blah blah blah. The last one kind of sucked. I mean, for the franchise,
Okay.
I gave it a 6 or something, or a 7, and it was one of the worst ones because it was just overblown.
Well, speaking of Sierra, that I haven't done it yet because I have to go out of town tomorrow. But HBO gives me 1 week for free. So when I get back here on Friday, maybe I'll sign up for the 1 free week and
Binge
watch
yourself some Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, good with that one. Oh, and one other thing, if you want to see a good science fiction representation of a witch hunt, watch Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Drumhead.
Okay.
The episode is called The Drumhead,
Okay.
and this is one when an admiral comes after Captain Picard, and she goes way over the top.
Okay.
And it's just a total witch hunt about the captain. And
Okay.
so if you haven't quite had enough of the recent politics,
Yeah.
that's a nice science fiction representation of what we've been going through. So
Well, I want to repeat that if you want to find out what's happening in this year in our election thing, you got to binge on West Wing. I'm going through for the second time.
all right, everybody, we're gonna end a couple of minutes early. Thank you very much for joining us. Carrie, Tom, and Gene, Jack, and Robert. I hope you guys had a little fun. We did. These tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. This is Happy Happy Game Show. You heard Cold Funk and Whiskey on the Mississippi. Thank you, Kevin. We really appreciate it. Also, if you have an extra few $1 million, here is Luxury Submarines by Migaloo. You can avoid all of the coming planetary disasters if you are underwater. I bet. So, pick up one of these at your local Migaloo distributors.
Yeah, right.
So, we'll be back on Sunday at 4 o'clock. And again, I'll have this all posted up soon. Another hour or two.
Don't forget to like us on wherever you find us.
Yeah.
Want to see if we can get our YouTube video up there so it shows up on recent stuff.
All right, I'm Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doan Show. We'll see you next time.
You're gonna do karaoke tonight?
That's a good question.